And hello, welcome all. Welcome back to Actual Play for another evening of Girl by Moonlight. And I even got the description right in Twitch. I feel like that's a win for today. My name's
Very
Sean.
accomplished.
Yes, I'm a pro. I think getting there. Only a year later, remembering to do like the most basic thing.
Like have you tried lists?
Lists.
I like lists. I have lots of lists. I feel like you were going to say, have you tried pants? That's a good thing to try in the morning.
Some days pants are a victory.
Some days pants are a victory. But today I've mastered not only pants, but also lists, or also updating. I'm Sean. I use he, him pronouns. Last session of this game was real sad, and I'm looking for more of that. Especially now that the one person who I think might understand me is actually just a ghost and disappeared. I'm playing Prophet. She's a time traveler, and she's all weirdly hung up about Abbott, Andy's character. I'm pointing in the wrong direction. Yeah, that's me.
Nice. Hi, y'all. I'm Andy. My pronouns are she and her. As Sean said, last time through, Unmade being real cool, our characters were all real sad. Abbott maybe missed some of that, Abbott being my character. And she's real good at not being able to emotionally connect with people. So little wonder that Sean's character's somewhat frustrated. I'm excited to go see what new wonderful connections or not we can manage today.
Hey folks, I'm Strash, he, him. And I don't know about anybody else thinking how things were super sad last time, but I saw a giant world-eating worm that I'm going to have to take on. And also, I am super pumped that we have a new mech that I am going to make friends with, because making friends with robots is the coolest thing ever.
That's rad.
Well, right you are. There is nothing cooler in all the world. I'm Andrew. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm the MC tonight. This delightful game. I mean, we could waste the audience's time on a recap, but we all know how that worked for Dragon Ball, and it will result in very long seasons with very little happening in each episode. So we'll spend half the episode recapping the previous episode, and the other half of the episode forecasting the next episode. So
I watched the very first episode of Gem and the Holograms a little while ago, and
both
after no, I think just the first part. Yeah, but after the first part, they did a preview of the next part. Then the preview was 20 minutes long. I swear it had to have been. I was like, you just told the whole story, not like, oh, I can piece it together. No, like that was all of it.
All of the salient points.
Yeah, so we could just do last time on and then next time on, and not actually have. Oh, that sounds like a terrible idea.
That's the game.
That's the whole show. Yeah, it's just. So we're coming out of a mission, which was to retrieve the engine Judgment from the alternate site, whatever they called it. I can't even remember.
I think that's what they called it, the alternate site, the other location.
Mm-hmm. And so y'all went in and like raided an ancient building thing.
There were bugs.
It was full of weird bugs and giant world-consuming worm thing, but also a cool robot. And you got the cool robot out of there before the giant worm kind of wrecked everything. And escaped on your floating fortress ship. And so we need to do Fallout from the mission.
Mm-hmm.
So let me just go double check.
Show everybody. I'm waving my hand, but you can't like see it on the screen. So I'm like, wait, I'm like, you maybe like see my shoulder moving, but like I'm trying. Here, let's do this. I'm waving my hand to like just gesture at the fact that we now have a new engine up there amongst the other tarot cards. Judgment. Join the ranks.
Don't let the name fool you. Very accepting and not at all haughty and imperious.
Not at all
That
judgy.
is its flaw.
And so let's see. Currently, the darkness tier is 2. So I'm rolling on the middle table here, and I'm just gonna
Oh, let me pull that up for everyone to see too.
let me just roll some dice
I
here.
wanted people to see our pretty tarot cards, but
They're exciting.
they are. Let's go over here.
Fallout.
Darkness.
So after the mission crew rolls some Fallout, the MC will roll dice equal to the current investigation tier. Blah blah blah. Okay. Great. Which before it reduces, readiness is at 10. Okay, so I rolled 2 dice.
Yeah, we fully readied.
Scout motto stuff.
Well,
Okay.
I'm glad we fully readied because we got a mixed result as opposed to a bad result.
Yeah, it could be worse, certainly.
Until it can't.
And so I don't think we did this last time. So this can be part of our recap as well. So the darkness track is going to advance by 1, +1 for each of the following criteria. Would we say that the darkness's agenda moved forward?
Yes.
It was hatching day.
Yep.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
giant worm coming out of the earth is probably a bad thing for everyone.
I mean, for the world, right? I don't know for everyone. Like the
Okay,
worm
Reyna's
seems like
excited, and the worm
like
is
Reyna's like pumped, like I'm gonna punch it in the worm face.
it doesn't really have a face so much as just a mouth.
Well,
Fight.
you know, are you gonna tell that to Reyna?
Did anyone become eclipsed or fall to darkness?
No.
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 I don't know if y'all expressly came closer to your destinies either, but this is the last one. Did the crew come closer to its destiny?
Did the crew? I mean, I feel like if we're talking about did we get closer to like the big confrontation with the Leviathans? Yes, because we both unleashed something really terrible, and also we gained a new engine to confront that with.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like that heralded that mission was a big one. That's like the mid-season big deal that then is like setting us up for the
Arc 2.
Well, it's setting us for the end of season final confrontation, right? Like that, like now we know what the big thing we're going to be facing at the end of the season is. It's that worm, right? Like that's.
Oh, we do?
Yeah.
I mean, is there something else more imposing right now?
Yeah. Feelings.
Yeah, I was gonna say your own horrible broken relationships.
And I'm sure the worm will do an amazing job of being a metaphor for those as well. So I feel like we will get all of the above. But
that would be ideal, wouldn't it?
I can't imagine that it isn't tied up in all that, in all those feelings.
Okay, so then the darkness track is at 11 out of 15 now. So when it fills, bad things happen. Y'all can probably run one more mission before you're at the like absolute drop dead point. Or if the next mission goes really badly, it could fill the track, and then we would go immediately into the next gnarly thing. Cool. So now readiness drops by half. So just chunk that down to 5. And then I have an extra set of questions that I need to ask y'all. So, was there collateral damage to the bastion itself or its conventional forces?
No.
Did the
I don't think
mission
so. Stayed out of it?
Yeah, because I feel like we were far away doing something else. Did the mission contribute to unrest, political strife, or despair?
Not that I know of.
Not if we don't tell anyone about the worm.
I mean, everyone knows about the worm, and I think that's a fair point. So we'll say yes, and we'll drop the bastion track by 1. Things are officially worse. than they were previously. Lastly, because we fucked off and didn't protect the bastion ourselves, there is one other bit to factor in. Let's see. So, when their crew pursues a mission that leaves the bastion exposed or internal strife and politics are left unchecked, roll readiness. So I'm going to roll 2d6. On a 6, the bastion handles the trouble and the citizens grow complacent, reduce readiness by 1. On a 4 to 5, the bastion weathers the trouble but not without cost. So the track goes down and there is resentment of you all in particular. And on a 1 to 3, it's a complete disaster. The bastion track reduces by 3. The crew must answer for it. If it crits, things are great. But what are the odds? All right. So here we go. Another 2d6 roll.
1 in 36.
I mean, yes, but also 0 with me rolling, it would seem. So on a 4, the track goes down by an additional 1, and everyone resents you for being absent.
So I have a question about this question in this context. So last time we did a mission where we're like, we're going to go sneak off and figure out what's happening. That was clearly the, like, we're not doing our jobs. We were like, we chose to like explore our own personal things and have kids making mischief time. And that felt like that was totally appropriate, that people would be upset and that other people had to fight in our stead or whatnot. In this case, we were absolutely doing the thing that everybody wanted. So on the one hand, I agree we were leaving the bastion undefended because we were going off and doing another thing, but we definitely weren't doing the thing where we like messed around. Like we were doing the mission that everybody wanted. So does that matter? Is it an either or? Is it you leave the bastion defended or you are doing your own thing? And just in the last mission we did both, or is it?
Yeah, what's
there a
kind
mitigating
of
factor there
here is that like if you aren't doing it, someone else is doing it poorly.
Right.
So the other crews holding the line, like I'm so let's get like into the fiction here because I think that's the best way to express it.
Yeah.
So like we see the conclave, the floating fortress that y'all went out in, like coming back to the bastion, and in the there's like the big pillar monolithy things that make the magical barrier around it. I think like one of them is missing. It's like fallen into the sea, and so we see it kind of like on a tilt, like half in the water, half sticking up.
Oh dear.
And like around that, like kind of past the line of the circle of stones, there are a bunch of there's like a couple wrecked engines kind of laying like half in the water with crews out on little ships trying to like deal with it and repair them and get them back into the bastion for like more proper maintenance. So there's clear signs of like some big battle, down to there being this like sort of turtle like leviathan also like half submerged in the water because its corpse is just kind of like down in the like the kind of bay.
Is it like shell back, like little Mario action where its feet are up in the air, or
no, you just see this like shell emerging
shell
from the water and then back in with none of the like constituent parts of it visible. But it was like some horrible like squid octopus turtle thing that like absolutely wrecked everything while y'all were off doing other stuff.
Right.
And so as you're coming in, there's like all of this kind of comms activity in the like bridge area, and Langard Hildar is like scrambling engineering crews to like help out with the recovery of the engines that got all wrecked up. And there's a lot of like activity that kicks off as soon as we kind of are coming back in. And I think that's where we'll pick up downtime, is kind of amidst all of that happening.
Right.
Woof.
So we're coming back like, we have big news, and everyone's like, we have big news.
Yeah, horrible things happened while you were gone. You're like, horrible things happened while we went and saw horrible things.
Yeah.
yeah, so there's like all these people like scrambling around and running out to deal with the more serious problems because y'all kind of emerged mostly unscathed from that whole situation. So
Yeah. I don't think our engines got messed up. Like we got a little messed up a bit from the outside appearances. I think we looked pretty good.
yeah, so there's kind of this sense of like, oh, well, everything's fine here and we need to go deal with other stuff, and you all get a little opportunity to do your own thing. Who wants to go first?
I'm
sorry, 'cause we're doing-
hold on, obligation. And
yeah, we're doing obligation. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was like, I feel like we don't get to do things first.
I'll go
Something
first.
is missing here. Yeah, so still we need to go in order. Let's see. Let me remind myself of what your obligation is.
Parties, fan shows, school visits, and otherwise being paraded in front of the public.
Getting into fisticuffs with the media.
Yep.
Mhm.
That's me.
So good.
And so I wonder if like who all was left behind, because we know that like Bantam's crew definitely would have been. I'm trying to think if what's her face, our dear friend and team manager.
No.
No, that's right.
Man, Andy's so on top of this. It's red. Knows everybody.
Only sometimes.
Oh, you're doing better than me, apparently. Yeah, I think probably she stuck around. Like she's more kind of attached to Sebastian, and like no one was recording the stuff that was happening out at the other site. It was kind of like a secret mission. And so, yeah, I think she stuck around to manage the broadcast of the like the shit that went down while y'all were away. And so she like shows up to the conclave to like start dealing with repairs and stuff of engines that are coming up into the conclave to be worked on. And yeah, she's on like super damage control in terms of like the PR of all of this, because like the good guys kind of lost on this one a little bit. It was like a very bad time. And she's looking for someone to blame. And so of course she puts Reyna in front of the camera to be like, cool, you need to talk about like whatever it was that you did, but don't actually tell them anything that you did. Like come up with a convenient story that is both true and not. She gives you this like totally impossible pitch.
Don't tell the truth, but don't lie.
Yeah.
Find somewhere in the middle.
Don't tell them what actually happened, but tell them something that's convincing and feels real about why you couldn't be here, why it was so goddamn important that you'd be out there while we were getting our asses kicked. And you've got...
I hold out an arm and I'm like, they're going to notice the new engine. It can't stay a secret.
She's like, okay, yeah, run with that. That's great.
Okay. And I think
runs off to like shout at someone else. Like you get like 20 seconds of her time where she's just like, you're deal with this, and then she runs off.
Do you watch My Hero Academia?
No.
There's an episode. It's about kids in a superhero school. That part's irrelevant. What happened was something bad happened to kids, and then they had like the badass kind of like hip teacher is forced to wear a suit and stand in front of a news crew who like riddles him with really uncomfortable questions and demands that like he take responsibility for everything. And everyone is just praying that he doesn't lose his temper and just chew these people out for being idiots and like totally judging them. And this is exactly what I'm seeing happening. Like Nono is like, Reyna, you have to deal with the media, but you cannot be yourself, and you must also not tell them any state secrets. And so, like, there's a moment where Reyna is actually in a suit, right? Like, I've got like a proper suit with a tie, and like my hair is that like dim blue color, and I'm standing in front of a door, saying, "I will not yell at the stupid news people. I will not yell at the stupid news people. I will not yell in front of the stupid news people." And then like, I step out and I go and I sit down and there's like all the like ridiculous flashing in my face.
Yeah.
And, and of course I have this speech prepared about the bravery of the crew and how we're like finding the hope. And the first question is, something like, why is it your fault that these people are dead? Or like, how will you account for?
Why did you abandon the bastion when we needed you the most?
So if it's cool, I'll roll and see
how that all plays out.
All right.
Totally.
Excuse me, this is Derek from Flat Earth Weekly. Why was it again that you? Yeah.
Exactly, right?
Is it true that you're in league with the Leviathans?
All right. Do we get any bonuses for this, or is this just a flat roll? Somebody remind me if we have a power. If not, I'm good.
I don't think y'all have any special powers, really.
When your fame, identity, or reputation is at stake, gain +1d.
Yes.
I will roll one more d if that's okay.
Well, it's Red Baroness.
Cool. Yeah, I think we put enough of
6.
There we go.
Nice.
So you like ace this interview?
Yeah, I think that there is like Reyna just like stands and looks at everyone in the eye and says, I tell him exactly how Sean put it. We were under orders. We were making a desperate call. We the brave people of the LDF have found out that there is an epic mech that was used to solve problems in previous wars. We accept, that there are risks and costs involved, but this may change the outcome of everything. And I think I'm just gonna throw something in there because I feel like there's stress no matter what, right? But like I think Reyna promises everyone like this is very like Strash is excited about the new mech. But Reyna does not want to abandon the mech that has the ghosts of previous pilots and like her best friend in the past, right? Like, so she promises everyone that, as like the top scoring pilot, she'll take this thing out and solve the problems, etc. with it. And like, stands up and does the like really curt bow and like, like gives everyone her word and like is like super on top of it and apologetic and does not lose her temper. And by the time like she goes out, you realize that like her palms are practically bleeding from like trying to clench her like hands together to like not lose her stock. But yeah,
I have a sort of side question. Invariably, they're going to ask you about Bantam's job, protecting defending the conclave, and like my suspicion is that they'd want to throw somebody under the bus, like they'd want to find somebody to blame.
Yeah, so whose fault is it then?
Yeah. So what's Reyna's take on Bantam's job at protecting? I mean, because they succeeded, kind of, at a cost.
Yeah, they did like a messy but successful defense.
Yeah,
I think I give an appropriate military speech about the risks of engagement, but I say that ultimately, while everyone in the military does everything they can to defend the civilians, responsibility always falls on the superior officer on the scene. And so essentially I'm throwing Prophet's equivalent on that team, like right under the bus.
Yeah.
Bantam.
Which is Bantam.
Yeah. Which is
Bantam. Bantam is totally just
oh no.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'll keep that in mind for later. Bantam is under a bus.
Hog.
I mean, in this world that could be real. That
didn't go quite that bad, but yeah.
Right, like I'm just saying, like, buses probably land on in an engine, arguably. Getting hit by a bus is probably a thing that has happened to one of our.
It's like someone throwing a brick at you. You're just
exactly. A Leviathan picks up a bus, chucks it at us. I'd buy it.
All right. Well, who's up next for obligation?
Andy, are you feeling?
You do it. You do it. You do
me? It. Okay. Well, you're gonna get involved anyway.
Great. I'm shocked.
Well, my obligation is pursuing forbidden love. I mean, that's.
Do you want to do it the other way around, or like because it would be more like LDF work and then transition to that, or do you want to do that in the middle?
Do you mean if you did yours, it'd be more LDF work, or do you mean
that is what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. Why don't you do yours and you can do
Great.
more LDF stuff.
Do. So I suspect that this means that as soon as the conclave touches down and like docks with
Well, it doesn't get to dock. It has to like float over the site of the battle, and like they're like winching up
Got it.
engines and getting them into the conclave to be repaired. And it's
I
just
think
it doesn't get to stop working at any point. It's like we go from one thing to the next.
I think that Abbott's also ends up in that mode of starting to repair engines and getting engines in the bays and trying to find the right tools because they've lost them or they've been misplaced or and I have an imagining given how though Abbott is not what was the tag that Reyna and Abbott dodged but that Tor kept was like about being like poorly regarded because they weren't there for the last mission either.
Oh yeah, Tor is disgraced. Right.
Disgraced.
Yeah.
So I imagine that Abbott, while not disgraced, it's a very mixed bag of who will and won't like work readily with Abbott, even if that's dodged, but that it's still dicey, like socially.
Yeah, exactly. Like people are still resentful of you, even if they are like grudgingly working with you and stuff like that.
Yeah. So, and what that looks like at large, I figure roll and see what contextualize from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think there is the Red Baroness, your fame, identity, or reputation's at stake game. Like, I don't feel like this is a new line in on like reputation being at stake.
Yeah, maybe not in the way that it was for Reyna just now.
Yeah, great. 5.
5 is still quite good.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Nice.
So take
Only
one stress.
taking one stress.
So like the business like nature of it sounds like is kind of insulating you from the worst of the backlash. Like they need your help, so they're not gonna make it too hard on you.
I think it's also
too busy to do so.
That one, I think more so than anything else, because I have a sense that the part where this team was gone again is like
it's an issue.
It stands to be a problem. So I think that it's the part where everyone's too busy to take the time to be cruel.
Yeah.
By and large.
More important things to do than be shitty to you. Thank goodness.
Yay.
But one thing that I'll bring up now, because now seems like as good a time as any.
Mm-hmm.
So the fallout I rolled from the last mission is that one of the engines goes dormant.
Oh no.
And so would y'all like me to pick one or roll randomly?
Pick one.
Okay.
I presume that's one of our engines, right? Not like, because there's other engines that it would make sense within the fiction to go dormant because they just got in a big fight and one could be like beat up to the point where it doesn't work.
Well, yeah, a bunch of that is true.
Yes. So in addition to that, yeah.
And if you don't want to pick one, you feel free to roll a die.
Yeah, I have an idea for how to pick, not which one to pick. But when we get back, the engines I feel like have a whole thing of their own that we don't really get. Maybe, I don't know if there's a hierarchy. I don't know what the relationship between the engines is like, like whether it exists, how it exists. But we've just introduced a new engine. Judgment has arrived.
And a bunch of them have been hurt real bad and or basically, like I think one is probably like permanently wrecked. Like they brought its carcass into the thing and they're going to try to fix it, but it's basically dead.
Basically dead. So it's possible that some of the social order that we don't understand at all would one of ours would feel the need to replace that one, to, at least temporarily. So it's maybe not dormant, but it's not usable by us, or that to tend to it, or to like introduce judgment back and like be this, like there could be a social reason, I guess.
I have a thought that I like.
Cool.
So yeah, one of the engines that they haul up, and we see this as part of the like montage of Abbott's obligation stuff. And so, it comes into the hangar still like dripping seawater and it's just like a totally mangled wreck. Like none of the pieces are in the right place. It's all this just big tangled jumble of limbs and whatnot. we don't even need to say like what it once was, but like one of its legs and one of its arms have like fallen off, and they're just like laid out on the deck kind of next to it. And everything's like focused on this thing as it's coming up, and then from like behind the camera we hear this like horrible wrenching sound as the hangman like gets out of its berth. It just like tears itself away from its berth, strides across the hangar, and then just like collapses onto its wounded friend, and just like is clearly like is just like hugging it, and letting out these like mournful sounds and not letting anyone get near it. And so we'll say that the hangman is out of action for a while it mourns its friend. No hangman.
And Abbott weathers that surprisingly well.
I'm curious what you'll pilot, Abbott.
Abbott's curious too.
Well, because the options are either judgment or everyone needs to shuffle.
I'm planning to shuffle anyway.
Well, okay then. So, Sean, would you like to take us through your obligation stuff?
Yeah, so I think this is what my obligation looks like. Prophet, at the end of the last game, asked Abbott a question that Abbott, I don't believe, gave her an answer to. And it was how do you want things to be between us? And Prophet is still very curious about that. And what she wants more than anything is to go talk to Abbott and like not have to talk to her in the middle of fighting or everyone else being around or all these other things. And yet the moment Abbott arrives, it's like back to work, fix all these engines, do all this stuff. And so you know who she's going to talk to instead? Because this makes lots and lots of sense. She's going to talk to her girlfriend. She's going to talk to Estera, Abbott's sister.
So, yes.
So
getting desperate there.
Super desperate. I think this is maybe the first time that Prophet has been both vulnerable and emotional with Estera, but also tried to get something out of her. And what she's hoping to get is understanding of her sister. And so it's kind of the classic, like, help me understand your sister. Like the people sometimes do would like, help me, like, how do I ask out your friend or that kind of thing. But it's weird. Like Prophet would really like to play it cool, but she's kind of a mess. She's got 6 stress, or I guess she doesn't. That resets now. But like she's drained. She's full of existential dread. She feels unloved. Big point there. She feels unloved, and so and so she's like, I just don't understand your sister, and she's like, she holds herself short of saying like I'm in love with her and I want her to love me too, but she's like, I need to be able to work with her as one of my pilots, which is like such a total lie. Like it's not that they can't work together is the issue, but that's what she's saying.
And this is during your like the routinely staged like interactions between you and Estera, which are purely for the camera.
Right. So in between the camera shots, and I think even there's like moments of like flash, right? Like we're standing there, like the judgment is behind us, and we're like posing in front of it, and they're holding like all the super beat up engines are like hidden off. They're like not.
Don't put those in frame. Yeah, they Photoshop them out
because No has like arranged the reporters so they can only come in at a certain angle, and like I've got my helmet under my arm, and my
the other arms around her shoulders,
over my other arms, and like in between the flashes, because we're not mic'd, they're just taking pictures, they're not asking us questions. Like that's Raina's job, she has to talk. Like we can just stand there and look pretty. So like between the flashes and whatnot, I'm like you're trying to ask her these things, and it's really like I know now's not a good time. There's never a good time, like kind of
nice,
that sort of tension and anxiety.
Why don't you go ahead and roll, and then I will think on how Estera will respond to this.
That sounds fair. Do you apply wound penalties to resistance rolls? I don't even remember if that's true of blades or not, but
I do not believe so.
I don't believe so either. Yeah, that would be really rough if you did.
Otherwise, it's a death spiral.
Yeah, because I'd be like, I feel unloved, which is really hard for me not to feel loved. I mean, if we're being real with ourselves, the downward spiral is real.
Yeah.
But let's not play that way. So I'm rolling my lowest stat, which is I'm gonna roll Moe because I feel like it.
Because you are despairing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm confessing. If I'm not taking action, but
yeah.
But I'm definitely, it's pretty obvious, I think, too. Oh goodness.
Oh wow.
I rolled
a 1.
So my stress goes from 6 to 5.
That's good.
That's how you do. That's how you start a mission. That's how you get ready. Yep. So
Tor.
So you keep asking her these questions, and she keeps trying to like dodge. Yeah. While the like cameras and stuff are still being pointed at you, and finally, when all that is done, and there's a moment to like actually engage, and maybe you've just asked her like, like, I just really don't understand, Abbott, or whatever, like your sister, blah blah blah.
I think I call her Ipsos in this case, and like, which is maybe a clear indicator that I'm not talking about her professionally. Like Pilot Abbott is like fine and professional, and Ipsos and your sister are very personal. Right?
And she just kind of like cuts you off and just says, I don't have a sister. And then like turns on her heel and walks away.
I think like we just like the camera angle shows like this long corridor with full of shadows with like or full of the big shadow of judgment looming over Prophet, and like Estera walking down that shadow, and then we just see like Prophet is like tiny in this shot, and then we just see her helmet just like drop and thud and hit the ground.
Yeah, it like drops to the ground and rolls.
It rolls, and like one lone reporter that like didn't kind of funnel out at the end like turns and snaps a picture of that, like and like just before they were about to get out, Prophet is totally like doesn't even notice as like the flash hits her face.
Yeah,
cool. That was my obligation.
So everything's going great.
Yep,
clearly.
Well, for most of the team, if I'm doing my job as captain, most of the team is doing all right. So
2 out of the 3 people who aren't you are doing great.
Yep.
Depends on how we want to measure that.
All right, so let's just roll into downtime.
Yeah.
So y'all are going to get an extra action or 2. Let me double check.
Yeah, I think we.
Because y'all have high alert now, right?
We do have high alert.
During downtime, the crew gets additional downtime actions to distribute amongst its members equal to the current darkness tier -1, which is in the 3rd tier now.
So we get 2 extra actions.
So you get 2 extra actions.
Nice, good timing, everyone.
Yeah, perfect time to pick it up. Yeah, because you're just barely in the 3rd tier, but that's enough for this. Right. These actions can only be used for the investigate the darkness, or in this case, to make preparations. So yeah, they're purely for improving readiness, but it's free actions to do that.
But it means we don't have to spend our normal actions on improving readiness. Yeah,
exactly.
So why can't I find high alert? Where is it?
It's on the new version. Or no, it's on the other sheet as well. It's under Red Baroness.
Okay. I feel like I'm forgetting. When does it happen that the Bastion makes ready?
So the Bastion
do that, and I missed it.
It should roll now, I think. So I'll quickly assess that, but start thinking about what y'all want to do. So
I know what I want to do.
It is going to, let's see. Where's my new version of it? Is it in my document?
Oh, and we also got chat, what you did not see from before we got on. We got another advance last session, and we decided to take an advance off another playbook because we're playing the advanced game here, yo. And we took Tireless, which I really wish we actually had last session, but that's okay. Which allows us to recover while transcending. Our first and last transcendent actions also count as recovery rolls. If we don't take a last transcendent action, we get some recovery anyway. So cool, like that.
I'm excited about like how I imagine this somehow relates to the grossness around the Leviathans donning flesh when the pilots transcended them. And just there's something.
It's got to be
very
related to
convenient,
that, right?
Yeah. That's what.
Yeah.
So it is going to make 3 rolls because everything is super intense right now. So everyone's getting mobilized. It will roll 2 dice because of where the Bastion track is at currently. And it prioritizes working on a flagship upgrade if one is already underway, which is currently not true. So the one it's going to do is war effort. Make preparations if darkness track exceeds readiness, which is true currently. And it's going to do this. It's going to make 3 rolls. So y'all might get to fill the readiness track this time, given how things are going.
Nice.
Let's see here. So I'm going to roll 2d6. Hey, good job, the Bastion.
Good job, Bastion. Just critting.
Yay.
So it's going to give us, 5?
Yeah.
5 segments. So we're back at 10 immediately.
Wow.
Darkness still exceeds readiness, so it's going to roll that same action again and give us another 2. I'm just going to do all of its stuff in one
That's
go,
fine.
and then we'll.
Right.
And then and so now for its 3rd action, readiness exceeds the darkness track, so it's going to enact repairs. So the Bastion has unfilled segments. Roll as make preparations with assigned dots to the Bastion track. So it's going to try to fix itself.
Go, Bastion, go.
And it gets 2, which is enough
yourself.
to get it back into the 3rd tier, which is good. So, readiness is at 12. The Bastion track is back at 11, matching the darkness track. And so what I think all this looks like is over the course of downtime, we see, like always in the background of everything else we're seeing, there are people like scrambling about and fixing things. They deploy a bunch of the engines and like they very epically, like with the help of the conclave, like winch the pillar back into place that was helping form the barrier. And as they're like pushing on it, and the conclave has like a huge anchor like hooked around it and is pulling it back up into place. And once it like drops into this big hole where it sits, it then like resumes spinning and picks itself up, and then like the whirlpool reforms around it, and the barrier like shimmers and kind of re-gels itself together. So it'll be the big kind of crowning moment for that.
Yeah, if I can, I'd like to add like a personal moment, a personal element of that,
Sure.
Which is that we all like from afar, that's what everybody sees, but like when you zoom in, you actually see like the big like ring that they're trying to wrap around the thing to pull it up. That the conclave is like lowered all these winches, and there's like people on all of the lines, and they're doing like crazy hazard work. It's like working on the top of a bridge where the wind is blowing you and you're like holding onto a cable, and it's just, there's nothing automated or machined about this process. It's all just like people like shouting at each other over their comms because it's super windy and getting splashed by water and like
and trying to set this huge like retaining ring in place around this in monolithic
And I think
pillar.
the monolith like pushes away, like it's really, like there's a magnetic polarity issue they have to overcome to get it to grip. And yeah, I just think it's very hard.
Yeah, absolutely. It's this huge endeavor. Like all of the Bastion's resources are currently going into doing all of this. And like people are being, like rushed into bunkers and like put on lockdown. Like everything's in crisis mode at the
right. Lots of klaxons going off.
Yeah, exactly. Everywhere you look, there's always like a flashing red light or an orange light or something. Cool. So downtime. How about that? We are in it.
Yeah.
The hangman is dormant until someone completes a long-term project to make it not be that way. It's just like grief-ridden and loud motorcycle. It's just like totally grief-ridden and
yeah,
curled up in a ball.
I want to take an action to try and get the hangman back in repair.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
I totally do. I mean, I don't have to go first, but that is the thing I want to do. I would like to.
It is the kind of thing that is definitely a long-term project.
I actually want to work on a long-term project too.
Cool.
Andrew, I need a little help here.
Okay.
So I have a plan, but I'm probably going to reach out to Ipsos to help with this. But the Judgment is clearly a mech that utilizes spears as a weapon type.
Mm-hmm.
And it can manufacture spears and summon spears out of spear space.
Yeah.
But I think what's going to happen is I am going to, I'm being a little mythological here. I'd like to make like a larger than normal spear from the bones of the giant sea monster that we fought at the end of season 1. Like the thing that killed my friend. I want to make a weapon to fight the worm. I want to make a worm killer spear. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because Gaebolg, the belly spear, very famous mythological spear, which fits with cards and mythical elements, was made from the bones of a sea monster in Celtic mythology. So I want to make like a giant badass worm killer spears that have a weapon that if we shove it into an organ of a giant worm that's 100 times as big as a mech, because like I figured that mission is not like somebody punches a worm in the face so much as like we dance along its skins and we fight the bugs inside it and we find like an organ like a heart and we have to like shove a magic spear through it, right? Like that's
it's definitely like it's a level, not a boss fight. Like
right.
The whole
right. And I understood that from your description last time, right? Like
because it's so big. It's like
right?
impossibly large.
Hold on, Andrew. How big is it?
So big. There was back in the day, I don't think it was my English class, but it was a friend's English class where there was a question on their exam that was like, how X was Y in this like passage in the story or whatever. And the quote that you had to put in was that it was so that. That was the quote. And so that phrase just always has that like extra little bit of giggle about it.
Well, I would like to make a so big spear.
I'm going to add the answers to a different quiz in chat, and anyone who gets it, cool, and anyone who doesn't, that's fine. Let's do a long-term project. What's that?
Yeah, how long does it take to forge this mighty spear?
It seems like a 4 o'clock to me.
Yeah,
sorry, checks out.
Say that. We might see one more downtime before needing to stage a desperate counterattack. So I'm gonna say it's an 8 o'clock.
Sounds great.
I think 8 is the default, and it seems reasonable in this case.
Yeah.
So we're calling this a worm killer spear.
I'll pull up that screen.
Great. It's 8 o'clock. Yeah, so you need to like pull out the bones of the thing, like find a suitable, materials to make it out of, and then
Oh, I have the feeling that when we killed that monster, because we've seen them like disassembling the monsters before.
yeah, they
I
like
have a feeling that what this looks like is Reyna actually like descends down to the pits, like where the big vents are, and they're drawing power from underneath everything. And one of the places that had like the water tables, like it sinks, and the spear is like, or like the bones of this monster are still there. It was in some sort of like containment liquid, and I'll actually like rip it out and like take it up the channel out the top to bring it like onto the surface to be like modified and carved. I believe scrimshaw is the correct term for this.
yeah, because like there's just going to be a big chunk of bone, and then it's got to get refined into shape and mounted on a
Right. And
thing.
when you say pull this out, you mean Chariot is doing this, right? Like this is bigger than, this is
Yeah.
either that or it's many
Large
cranes and
scale.
forklifts and things like that.
And I think that like, we see like people trying to work on it, but I think that like the initial cuts actually have to be made with a mech, right? Like I need to actually like ignite Chariot and like actually like, because like most of the other mechs maybe don't have the sufficient force, and Chariot's like strength is its like virtue. So
It is
I'm
the
actually
most
like,
powerful one.
yeah, I'm actually cutting through it with Chariot's flame kind of thing, and getting the initial cuts, and then they can do like the detail work afterwards and whatnot.
Like if we were playing Republic, I would add a coin of sadness here, but I have an idea for this bone, like that. If this is like a creature that has these big giant like protruding spiky bones, maybe by nature, like maybe not horns but like big old spiky bones, and this is like the biggest one, could this also be the one that killed your pilot?
Oh yeah, it's very likely.
I mean, right, that would make sense.
Yeah, there's
it pierced Chariot and killed
there's
the
a
pilot.
scar on Chariot. There's this like mark that hasn't gone away where he got freaking like impaled by this very same piece. And there's lots of like, weird emotions flooding the cockpit as you're like thinking through it. There's like sadness and fear, which is one you've never felt from Chariot before. And like, but one thing I'd like to put in is that there is a spot, like a place out in the open. There's like a horrible charnel mess where they put all the leviathans that they've killed and are like processing them still. And this is in this like boneyard that's just outside the bastion. So it's like exposed to the air, and there's like this place where there's a bunch of industry going on kind of around that. And you like get in there and be like, oh yeah, that one. Oh yeah, it's way at the back. And there's this kind of like junkyard vibe of pile up bones and stuff.
Sure, there's also a like shadow secondary market of vibe of thing of like people who come in here and steal the smaller pieces, and
or like want to eat leviathan meat or stuff like that.
There are cults, leviathan cults.
There are definitely cults and whatnot.
I'm into this.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. What should I roll to work on this lecture project?
I don't know. What is this first thing that you are doing? I feel like maybe you need to like muster your courage to like get this thing that
I'm okay with that.
Killed your friend. That is like a big, scary, upsetting thing. That
what do I muster courage with?
That would be Defy.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm good. Okay, so I'm gonna make a roll.
Defy?
Don't freak out because I do not know. So like my Defy is 4, but there is no toggle for I am in form or not. So I'm just gonna roll 2d6 K1. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's good.
And I have a question for you. Since I'm using, well, actually, I think it's also fighting me. I think I'm just gonna roll 2d6 K1. Whoop. Well, that's a crit. 5 seconds on that clock, please.
Damn.
Sweet.
So what does critting on this thing look like?
Yeah.
I think it's all internal, right? Like I think that there is fear and pain, and like Reyna does the thing that she does best, which is actually kind of sad. So I think that like when I come out of Chariot afterwards, I am shaking. Like she tells everyone like, see, that's how you do it. And the moment like the techs run off to do stuff, she like puts a hand on Chariot and actually like shakes and you actually see that like the wound in her side, which she's never gotten properly patched, like bleeds extra. But I think that like she takes all the ghosts and she consumes their fear and their uncertainty and their doubts, and she just converts it into rage against this thing, right? Like when you're scared, sometimes it helps to like pretend that you're angry, because like that lets you subsume the fear. And I think that that's exactly what it is like she goes at this thing tirelessly. Like we see like the first swing, and then we see that it's nighttime. You just keep hearing the like swing still going on. So yeah, like by the time she gets out, she's like emotionally drained, because she's like trying to cover for and process the fear of like 100 things and her mech. And at that point, like the next time, maybe even she tries to get into Chariot, it just won't activate. Because she literally forced it to do a thing it doesn't want to do or it's scared of. So
yeah, I mean, it is tormented. So I think like, yeah, in that moment where you're like, you put your hand against it and you're like heads down and you're just like, like taking a deep breath and you're like shaking. You hear your friend Zyra like crying, and we see like your eyes are closed, but the shot is of you doing that, and there's like a ghostly little image of her like hugging her knees to her chest and sobbing.
Oh God, it's so sad. Yeah, I feel like I pull my hand away almost like it's burned.
And like you get that flash of like her presence, and she's like really, really scared and upset. Yeah.
All right.
Woo, that's a crit. That's a good result. Yeah.
Nice.
It is.
That's how we win at the game.
It's the best
like
result.
Maximum pathos here.
Yes.
There's like hella pathos with this thing. And then, we cut to like people with like angle grinders and stuff like sharpening this thing. As like, it's a big part of the war effort or whatever.
Yeah.
And nice. So yeah, who's next?
I have an idea. Andy, do you have anything you would like to do?
Go right ahead.
Awesome. So guess what? Estera didn't want to hear my thoughts about Abbott. So guess who I'm gonna go talk to is the Hangman, because
just anyone but.
Well, I'm kind of
so bad at this time.
I'm working my way up to it.
I love it.
Well, to be fair, when I've talked to Abbott directly, what I get is a blank response. So she's trying to figure out how to. My last action is definitely going to be a social link with Abbott. It's just
right. You got to build up.
I got to build up to that. This is prep for that.
You got to come at her sideways.
I got to come at her. I got to have some understanding of her that I don't have right now. So, so this is like, there's like this, there's the huge sparks of the text working those angle grinders and like buzzing away at the giant spear. And it's like in this huge cradle that like normally they would put injured, engines in to like hold it down, hold it in place.
Yeah, it's kind of like a boat in dry dock or whatever. There's like these slings that come down and are holding this huge spear.
Right. And Prophet is just sort of walking through all that stuff, and like cinders and fire like flying over her to one side, and like people running by her on another, and she just seems to be like out of sync with all of that. Like she's moving very slowly while everyone else is like racing around, and everything's happening very fast, but she's got her own slow-mo like walk. And then she finally gets to, we see her like sort of stop, and she grabs this big, heavy, rusted, like old worn chain. And it's like her hands barely fit around one single ring of it. And she like pulls it and like moves it like half an inch. Like that's as much as she can like move this chain. And she sort of like moved it enough that like she can get through it and like squeeze between this chain and like get to the point where she can sit down. And then when the camera zooms out, we see like she's sitting like on a part of the Hangman. And
it's like coiled itself around the carcass of this dead engine,
right?
Like a snake or something like
right. And I think its chains are wrapped around it as well, and so that's why she kind of had like pry to like pull one loose. And again, she couldn't really move it, but she just got it to shift just barely enough that she could sort of get in
like
there,
squeeze through. Yeah, totally.
And she sits on it and she's like, "Yeah, you and me both. I'm sorry if you lost someone you loved, I thought I had a connection to somebody that would understand me, and nope, they're gone. They didn't exist. I was just like a ghost. I was a figment of them. And then I always think, I foolishly maybe, that like Abbott will understand me, and maybe she understands me perfectly well, and she's smart enough to stay away. I don't know, but I feel it, and I'm sorry things are so crappy. They're crappy for me too. And I want to confess to try and
This is you bonding with your engine.
This is me trying to repair. This is me trying to get Hangman back in. I'm working on a long-term project to get Hangman restored by confessing my similar feelings of sadness to the Hangman.
Yeah, we'll call it a 4 o'clock to kill the Hangman.
Good, because I'm probably gonna get one tick on it, because I have to look at. I'm this time actually going to pay attention to all my wounds, as opposed to being a mad cheater. I'm like, I have wounds. All right, so I am drained, unloved, filled with existential dread, and disgraced. I think, I don't know. Like, I don't know that unloved actually makes this harder. I think this is about being unloved. I don't think that makes it harder, but
it fuels your venting of all this emotion,
right? But being drained and or existential dread seem like they could apply. I'm not sure. What do you feel like? Confessing things, being sad.
I think drained definitely applies.
Cool.
Like, you're trying to do emotional work and you are exhausted.
Yeah, absolutely. And Red Baroness does not apply. We have so many things. When you use your impossible knowledge to persuade someone. Okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to make this a little more dire, because I think it's important. I am going to say that just like we needed you last time, we need you again this time. So I'm sorry that you have to keep fighting, but you do. You play an important role in ending this again.
Yeah, you're basically like, if you stay here mourning your friend, then everyone else will die too. To the thing.
Yep. And I say you need to be here for us, and you need to be here for Abbott. So I'm going to use my Dark Omen, and say, when I use my impossible knowledge to persuade someone, I get +1 effect. So I'm going to be -1 die with +1 effect.
See, Sean, you almost rolled without making it spooky and timey-wimey, and then
right. And then I was like, wait,
it made you.
Let me look at my character. Hold on.
Wait, if I make it spooky, I get more dice? Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Risky standard. Can you do negative bonus dice? Does it work?
I don't know.
I'm going to roll, and if it rolls 2 dice, then we'll ignore it.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
Give it a shot.
That worked. It only rolled 1
you
die.
can do negative bonus dice. Great.
Yeah,
nice.
Good to know. So you can roll your defy untranscended if you want. But because of Oracle, that is +1 effect. So that's 2 ticks.
So yeah, it counts as 2 ticks instead of 1. Cool. So you're halfway there. I think, like, you say all of this, and like the Hangman just like shudders, as if it were like racked with sobs. Like everything just kind of like vibrates, and there's that sense of like in and then like shudderingly out, and it like compresses and like coils a little tighter
right
around the wreck that it's mourning. And you're like briefly like trapped inside of, like, am I gonna get crushed?
Yeah, okay? Totally. I can totally see maybe really like
close and almost get crushed.
Yeah, I can totally see maybe like help. And I'm like stuck in there for a little bit.
And then there's like a little bit of a release.
Yeah.
And it like opens back up a bit, enough for you to like wriggle out of it.
It's totally notable when she gets out that there's like this giant rust mark across her chest where like the chain kind of squeezed her a little bit, because the old rusted chains, like there's this big sort of rusty streak. It can be cleaned off, but it's
rusty hugs.
Rusty hugs. That's my nickname for the Hangman is Rusty Hugs.
Really sad.
Rusty Hugs is that's quite the nickname. Okay. Great. Who's next? Also, I have a question for Andy. So you have this long-term project about apologizing to Abbott, and like, on the one hand, apologizing to Prophet.
Yeah.
While on the one hand, like, it would be cool for you to complete that. It's also really funny for that to just sit uncompleted while we continue doing all this other stuff. It's like, oh, I gotta get around to that. Oh, the world's gonna end.
There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on. There's also the part where Abbott continues to have a wound that, and I imagine, bleeds rather regularly on her scapula. So there's also that good fun. Various nightmares and day spooky hallways and the like. So yeah, Abbott has a lot going on.
Yep.
And not a lot of time.
Juggling a lot of things. A weird bike just went by in front of my house that had a shopping cart built into the front of it.
Oh, good times.
Would y'all like to take a break before we go into the next thing?
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, sorry, I wasn't.
I keep forgetting.
Yeah, well, we started a little bit late, so this isn't too bad. But cool. All well, we'll be back with more sadness and maybe happiness. I'm gonna have a social link with Abbott. I'm gonna try and.
Catharsis is gonna happen.
We're gonna try. I'm gonna try not to be sad and make sadder pants the whole game.
It's gonna be fine.
We'll see how it goes. So
who
yeah,
knows? Maybe Abbott will have social links with you before then.
Anything's possible in the world of Earth Unmade. All right, we'll be back in 5. See you guys later.